Welcome to the Mind Set in Stone podcast, your gateway to exploring the most transformative books of our time. Join hosts Larrell and Poppy as they unravel powerful themes, uncover life-changing ideas, and share the stories that shape how we see the world. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive into Deepak Chopra's 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. Sometimes life can feel like we're pushing that boulder uphill, but Chopra's book says there's a different way. We can tap into those same forces that make flowers bloom and rivers flow to create success in our own lives.
It is fascinating, yeah. And it's not just about, money or having things. It's about aligning with these natural laws.
Right.
To create a life that is really fulfilling, full of joy, strong relationships, creativity, and that deep inner peace we all crave.
Okay, so less builder pushing, more going with the flow. Sign me up. Where do we even begin?
Well, Chopra starts with this law of pure potentiality.
Okay.
Which basically says that at our core, we're not these limited beings, Pure consciousness, a field of infinite possibilities. Imagine an ocean with waves on the surface.
Okay.
Those are our thoughts, our anxieties, our day-to-day stuff. But deep down, the ocean is vast, calm, and incredibly powerful. That's the potential Chopra's talking about.
Okay, yeah, I can get a sense of that.
Yeah.
But how do we actually access that?
Right.
That calm, powerful ocean within us. It's easy to get caught up in the waves,
Exactly. And that's where the practices that Chopra suggests come in. Things like silence, meditation, non-judgment. He even talks about communing with nature, which I love. He quotes Franz Kafka.
Okay.
Who said, "You need not leave your room. The world will freely offer itself to you to be unmasked." Isn't that beautiful?
It really captures that sense of stillness, revealing something deeper. But let's be real. We can't all just sit in a cave and meditate all day.
Yeah, right.
How do we combine this stillness with actually doing things in the world?
That's a great question, and you're right. It's not about becoming a hermit. It's about realizing that stillness is the source, the potential. And from that place of inner calm, action becomes much more effective. Think of it like an archer. You need a steady hand to aim properly.
Right. Before releasing the arrow.
That makes so much sense. So we tap into our pure potential. We get a clear aim. And then let's talk about actually manifesting those desires, because that's where the law of giving and receiving comes in.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the flow of energy. Chopra compares it to a river. If the water stops flowing, it becomes stagnant. And he sees money as a form of energy, too. It needs to circulate to stay vibrant.
So the more we hoard, the more we block that flow. I've always found that idea of the more you give, the more you receive intriguing, but sometimes it feels a bit, simplistic.
Well, Chopra takes it a step further. He talks about the intention behind giving.
Right.
It's not just about giving to get something back. It's about wanting to create happiness for both yourself and the recipient.
Okay, so it's about a generosity of spirit, not just material things.
Exactly. Think about it. A genuine compliment, a heartfelt prayer for someone, even just a smile can be powerful forms of giving. It's about cultivating that feeling of abundance within yourself.
Right.
And wanting to share it with others. This all ties in nicely with the next law, right? Law of karma. I think most people have heard of karma, but Chopra seems to put a unique spin on it.
Absolutely. We often think of karma as this cosmic reward.
Right.
Or punishment system, but Chopra really emphasizes our choice. He says we're constantly making choices even when we're not aware of it, and that we can become much more conscious about these choices.
But how do we do that? We're all creatures of habit,
Yeah.
running on autopilot so much of the time.
He calls it spontaneous right action, which sounds a bit fancy, but it's really about checking in with yourself in the moment. He even suggests paying attention to your body. Does a choice feel expansive, comfortable? Or does it create a sense of tightness or unease?
So it's like our body's giving us feedback.
Yes. And the more we practice this awareness, the more we start to make choices that are in alignment with our true selves. Naturally creates positive karma. But what about all those choices we've made in the past? That's where things get interesting. Chopra talks about 3 ways to deal with past karma.
Oh, do tell.
For sure. So there's paying debts, which can involve apologizing, making amends, or even just accepting the consequences of past actions. Then there's transforming karma, which involves consciously choosing a different course of action in a similar situation. And finally, there's transcending karma,
Okay.
which Chopra suggests is possible through meditation. It's about going beyond the limitations of our past and tapping into that pure potentiality we were talking about earlier.
Okay, so karma isn't some fixed destiny. It's something we can actively work with
Right.
and even transcend. That's actually quite liberating. But then how does this all tie into success in the world, especially in a society that often feels like it's all about hustle and grind?
That's where the law of least effort comes in. And it's one of my favorites because it's so counterintuitive. It basically says that when we align with these universal principles, things flow more effortlessly. Think about nature. Grass doesn't try to grow, it just grows. Fish don't try to swim, they just swim.
So you're saying we can achieve our goals without all the stress and struggle. That sounds a little too good to be true.
Well, Chopra would say that when we're aligned with our true selves and motivated by love, not ego, things naturally unfold with less resistance. He even talks about miracles, which are really just expressions of this law in action.
Okay, I'm intrigued. But let's be practical. What does effortless action actually look like in our everyday lives? How do we move from striving to flowing?
Chopra breaks it down into three components: acceptance, responsibility, and defenselessness. Acceptance means accepting the present moment as it is without resistance. Responsibility means taking ownership of our situation and our feelings without blaming others. And defenselessness means letting go of the need to defend our point of view. Quotes Don Juan from Carlos Castaneda's The Art of Dreaming, who says, most of our energy goes into upholding our importance. If we were capable of losing some of that importance, we would provide ourselves with enough energy to catch a glimpse of the actual grandeur of the universe.
Wow, that's deep. It makes you realize how much energy we waste on defending our ego instead of connecting to something bigger. But honestly, letting go of that need to control everything sounds terrifying.
It can be challenging, for sure. But that's where the next law comes in, the law of intention and desire. It's about understanding that our thoughts and intentions have a real impact on our reality.
Okay, so this is where things get a little woo-woo. The idea that our thoughts can actually influence the material world.
It can seem that way, but Chopra explains it in terms of energy and information. He says that everything, even our bodies, is essentially energy and information constantly in flux, and that we can consciously influence this content.
Uh-huh. So if we can tap into this power, we can literally create the life we desire. I'm getting chills just thinking about it.
That's the idea. But he emphasizes the importance of detached intention. It's about wanting something without being rigidly attached to the outcome.
Okay, hold on. Detached intention. That sounds like a paradox. How can we truly want something but not be attached to whether or not we get it? That's like wanting to win the lottery but not caring if you actually win.
It's a subtle concept, but think of it like planting a seed. You have the intention for it to grow into a beautiful flower,
Okay.
but you don't micromanage the process. Trust the natural intelligence of nature to do its work.
Okay, that's a helpful analogy. So we set the intention, we nurture it,
Yes,
but we release the need to control every step of the way.
exactly. And Chopra provides a 5-step process for harnessing intention.
Okay.
First, you slip into the gap, that silent space between thoughts where pure potentiality resides. Then you release your desires into this fertile ground. You stay in self-referral, focusing on your connection to your true self. You relinquish attachment to the outcome, embracing uncertainty. And finally, you let the universe handle the details, trusting in that infinite organizing power we were talking about earlier.
So much to unpack there. But it makes me think about those amazing stories you hear about people manifesting their dreams. Did they somehow tap into this process without even realizing it?
Maybe so, but the great thing is we can all learn to do this consciously. It's about aligning our desires with our true purpose, which brings us to the next law.
Which is the law of detachment. Again, sounds a bit paradoxical. To get something, you have to let go of it. How does that work?
It's about shifting from a place of fear and scarcity, which fuels attachment, to a place of trust in the power of your true self. Remember, Chopra believes that at our core, we're already abundant. So it's not about acquiring something outside of ourselves,
Right.
but about allowing that inner abundance to manifest in the physical world.
So detachment isn't about giving up on our dreams. It's about releasing the fear and need to control the outcome.
Exactly. He compares it to the difference between a traveler who's rigidly attached to a map and one who's open to new possibilities along the journey.
That's a great analogy. So by letting go, we actually open ourselves up to even greater opportunities than we could have imagined.
Precisely. And this openness accelerates our growth. It allows us to see opportunities even within challenges and experience what we often call good luck, which is really just the meeting of preparedness and opportunity.
This is all starting to make so much sense.
Yeah,
And it perfectly sets the stage for the final law, the law of Dharma, right?
indeed. Dharma, meaning purpose in life, suggests that we each have unique talents meant to fulfill unique needs in the world.
So it's about finding that sweet spot where our passions and talents intersect with the needs of others.
Precisely. And Chopra believes that when we align with our Dharma, true abundance flows into our lives effortlessly.
This is so inspiring, but how do we actually discover our Dharma? Where do we even begin?
Well, that's a deep dive in itself and maybe a topic for another episode, but Chopra provides some great starting points.
Okay, cliffhanger. But I'm definitely hooked. This has been an incredible journey so far.
It really has. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's so much more to explore. I'm excited to dive even deeper into these laws with you in the next part.
Me too. This is mind-blowing stuff. We'll be right back after a quick break.
You know, as we were discussing that law of Dharma before the break, I was reminded of a story Chopra shares in the book about his own children.
Oh, tell me more. I'm always fascinated by how people actually apply these principles in real life.
Well, he talks about how he encouraged his kids to really focus on how they could serve humanity and express their unique talents, rather than simply chasing, grades or external achievements.
It's so easy to get caught up in that rat race mentality, especially with all the pressure kids face these days. So what happened?
Well, they ended up thriving, not just in their careers, but in all areas of their lives. It's a beautiful example of how aligning with our Dharma can lead to that true fulfillment and abundance that Chopra talks about.
That's so inspiring. It really highlights how this isn't just some, abstract philosophy. It's about living a life of purpose and meaning.
Absolutely. And it makes me think about all the different ways we can express our Dharma. It's not just about our careers. It can be about how we show up in our relationships, our communities,
Right.
even in our everyday interactions.
So true. It's about bringing that awareness of our unique gifts and our desire to serve into everything we do.
Exactly. And that's what makes it so powerful. It's not just about achieving some external measure of success, but about cultivating a deep sense of purpose and inner joy. But I realize this can all sound a bit overwhelming, especially if you're feeling a bit lost or haven't quite found your Dharma yet.
I was just thinking that. What advice would you give to someone who's listening and feeling that way?
Well, first I'd say, don't worry. It's a journey and it unfolds in its own time. It often starts with a deep inner exploration.
So where do you even begin with that inner exploration?
Chopra suggests practices like meditation, spending time in nature, journaling, anything that helps you connect with that inner voice. It can also be helpful to pay attention to what brings you joy and a sense of flow.
Like, what are you naturally drawn to? What activities make you lose track of time?
Exactly. Those can be clues to your unique talents and passions. And then, as you start to get a sense of those, you can start asking yourself, how can I use these gifts to serve others? How can I make a positive impact on the world?
I love that question. It shifts the focus from what's in it for me to how can I contribute. It's like activating that law of giving we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And it's amazing how those small acts of service can ripple outwards and create such a positive impact. It brings to mind that concept of the interconnectedness of everything, which Chopra emphasizes throughout the book.
It's like we're all part of this intricate web, and our actions, even the seemingly small ones, have the power to affect the whole.
And that's what makes these spiritual laws so profound. They're not just about personal success, they're about recognizing our connection to something larger than ourselves.
Right.
And aligning our lives with that universal flow.
It's like we're all part of this grand cosmic dance, and these laws provide the choreography for creating a life of purpose, joy, and abundance. But I have to ask, with all this talk about aligning with the universe and tapping into infinite potential, is there a risk of bypassing the very real challenges and suffering that exist in the world? Does this approach make light of those things?
That's a really important question. And I think it's crucial to acknowledge that these laws aren't about ignoring or denying the difficult aspects of life.
Right.
In fact, Chopra addresses this directly. He talks about how suffering is often a catalyst for growth and transformation. It's through facing those challenges that we often discover our greatest strengths and develop deeper compassion for ourselves and others.
So it's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about finding a way to navigate those challenges with more grace and resilience.
Exactly. And remember, the law of detachment doesn't mean we become indifferent to suffering. It means we learn to detach from our emotional reactions to it so that we can respond in a more skillful and compassionate way.
It's like finding that inner peace amidst the storm. Not denying the storm's existence, but finding that stillness within ourselves.
Right.
That allows us to weather it with more strength and clarity.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And I think it speaks to the power of these spiritual laws to transform not just our individual lives,
Right.
but the world around us.
Okay, so we've talked about finding our dharma, aligning with these universal laws, and even using those principles to navigate challenges. But there's still this lingering question for me. What about those times when things just don't seem to be working? When we're putting in the effort, setting intentions, trying to detach, and yet we still face setbacks, disappointments, even failures. What then?
Yes. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think it's important to remember that this journey isn't about achieving some kind of perfect, blissful state where everything always goes our way.
So it's not about becoming some kind of superhuman who's immune to life's ups and downs.
Exactly. In fact, Chopra talks about how challenges are inevitable and that they're often opportunities for learning and growth. He even suggests that what we perceive as failure is often just the universe redirecting us towards a path that's more aligned with our true purpose.
So it's about trusting the process, even when it feels messy or confusing.
Yes. And remembering that failure is often just a stepping stone to something greater. It's about cultivating resilience, learning from our mistakes, and continuing to move forward with faith and determination.
It's like that saying, fall 7 times, stand up 8. It's about not letting those setbacks define us, but using them as fuel to keep growing and evolving.
Beautifully said. And I think that's a perfect segue into the next part of our deep dive.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What else is there to explore?
Well, we've talked a lot about the principles behind these laws, but I think it's time to get even more practical. In the next part, I want to share some specific techniques and practices that you can start using today to integrate these laws into your own life.
Ooh, I love practical tips. Count me in. We'll be back after a quick break to delve into those. All right, we're back, ready to get practical. I'm excited to hear about those techniques you mentioned for actually applying these spiritual laws in our everyday lives. Where do we start?
Well, you know how we've been talking about the importance of stillness, accessing that pure potentiality within.
Right.
One of the most powerful practices for that is meditation.
Okay, meditation. I have to admit, I've tried it a few times, but my mind just races. Any tips for beginners like me?
Oh, I totally get it. Meditation isn't about emptying your mind. It's more about learning to observe your thoughts without getting carried away by them. It's like watching clouds drift by in the sky.
So it's about creating that space between thoughts.
Yeah.
That gap Chopra talks about.
Exactly. And even just a few minutes a day can make a huge difference. There are so many different types of meditation too, guided meditations, mindfulness meditations, even just focusing on your breath. Find what works for you and be patient with yourself.
Okay, so meditation for tapping into that inner stillness. What about the law of giving? Any practical tips for putting that into action?
Chopra suggests giving a daily practice, even in small ways. It could be as simple as offering a genuine compliment, doing a random act of kindness for a stranger, or donating to a cause you care about.
It's about shifting that focus from lack to abundance, looking for ways to share the good that we already have in our life.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about material things. You can give your time, your energy, your attention, your love.
This reminds me of something you said earlier about shifting our internal dialogue from what's in it for me to how can I help?
Yeah.
It's like flipping a switch in our mindset.
Yes. And that simple shift can make a profound difference in how we experience the world. It connects us to our dharma, our purpose, and opens us up to receiving all the abundance the universe has to offer. Speaking of dharma, I know we touched on this earlier, but I wanted to share a powerful exercise Chopra suggests for getting clearer on your purpose.
Oh, please do. I think this is something so many people struggle with.
He calls it the Dharma Discovery Exercise. It involves writing down the answers to 3 questions.
Okay, I'm ready. Hit me with those questions.
The first question is, what are my unique talents and gifts? Take some time to really reflect on this. What comes naturally to you? What do you enjoy doing that makes you lose track of time?
I love that, focusing on what lights us up, not just what we think we should be doing. What's the second question?
The second question is, how can I use my talents to serve the world? Think about the problems you're passionate about solving, the people you want to help, the difference you want to make.
That's so powerful. It really connects our individual gift to something larger than ourselves. Okay, what's the final question?
The final question is, what brings me joy and fulfillment? Chopra believes that our dharma should not feel like a burden, but rather a source of deep satisfaction and happiness.
It's like finding that sweet spot where passion, purpose, and joy all intersect. I love it.
And the amazing thing is, as you start reflecting on these questions and taking action in alignment with your answers, the path will continue to unfold. Your dharma isn't a fixed destination, it's a journey of discovery and evolution.
That's so reassuring. It takes the pressure off needing to have it all figured out right now.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to experiment, to try different things, and to course correct along the way. Your dharma may evolve as you do.
This has been so insightful. I feel like I have a whole new toolbox for creating a more fulfilling and purposeful life. But before we wrap up, I have one more question for you. We've talked about all these amazing benefits of aligning with these spiritual laws. More abundance, joy, purpose, even miracles. But let's be real, life isn't always sunshine and rainbows. How do these principles apply when we're facing those inevitable challenges, those dark moments that we all experience at some point? Do these laws somehow help us through those times too?
That's such an important question, and I'm so glad you asked it because you're absolutely right. Life is full of ups and downs, and no amount of positive thinking can completely erase those difficult experiences. But here's the thing. These laws don't promise a life free from challenges, but they do offer a framework for navigating those challenges with more grace, resilience, and even a sense of meaning.
So it's not about bypassing the darkness, it's about finding the light within it.
Exactly. Remember the law of least effort. Acceptance is a key component of that law. Accepting the present moment as it is, even when it's painful, allows us to let go of resistance and tap into a deeper source of strength. And the law of detachment can be incredibly helpful in those times, too. It's not about detaching from caring or feeling compassion, but rather detaching from that emotional reactivity that can keep us stuck in suffering.
So it's about finding that place of inner peace amidst the storm, not denying the storm's existence, but allowing it to pass without being swept away by it.
Yes. And even the law of karma can offer a sense of perspective during difficult times. It reminds us that while we may not always understand why things happen, there's a deeper intelligence at work, and that even our challenges can serve a purpose in our growth and evolution.
It's like trusting that there's a bigger picture, even when we can only see a small piece of the puzzle.
Precisely. And that trust can be incredibly empowering, especially when we're facing uncertainty or adversity. It allows us to surrender to the flow of life, knowing that even in the darkness, there's a light guiding us toward a greater good.
Wow, that's so beautifully put. I feel like we've covered so much ground in this deep dive. What a journey it's been.
It really has, and I hope it's just the beginning for you. Remember, these laws are like seeds. Plant them in the fertile ground of your heart and mind, nurture them with intention and action, and watch them blossom into a life that's truly aligned with your highest potential.
What a perfect way to end this episode. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and insights with us today. This has been truly transformative.
It's been my pleasure. And to everyone listening, may you continue to explore these laws, make them your own, and experience the incredible abundance and joy that comes with living in alignment with your truest self.
And that's a wrap on this deep dive into Deepak Chopra's 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. We'll be back next time with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep growing, and keep shining your light.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.